welcome back, everybody. This is going to be part 2 of the draft team review video. Hopefully coming out tonight, Tuesday, June 29th. It is currently 110 degrees, and we are holed up in the basement. So we figured we'd try to knock out the second half, these 11 remaining teams. I think we can just go ahead and start with this one, the Mauville Mawiles, piloted by Emilio. And I'll just rattle down the Pokemon so we can start thinking. And for any of you guys that are just listening to this, we've got Clefable and Garchomp as the Tier 1s, Bisharp Slowking for Tier 2, Machamp, Rotom Frost, Serena, and Uxie for Tier 3, and Golbat, Magmar, and Mawile for Tier 4. What are your initial thoughts, Eric, on this?
This looks really strong and generally bulky. I feel like he has a great mix of physical and special attackers. The value is really there, especially in the Tier 3s, in my opinion, where he got Serena and her fantastic ability. I think Rotom Frost is actually slept on because this thing is the Bullet Beam combo, and it gets Nasty Plot. So I think it's a great max option, and then Machamp just brings general bulk and annoyance through Dynamic Punch, and I think this thing with an Assault Vest can hang out for a while. So he's got Redirection, he's got Anti-Intimidate, he's got Trick Room. Garchomp is just one of the scariest Tier 1s there is, and I was using it on ladder for a while with Max Strike, and I think that it's just really good in its speed tier, especially typing and speed tier.
Yeah, I feel like I don't value some of the pseudo-legend dragons as much in doubles just because we see so much of Metagross and Salamence if we do see things. But the speed tier is amazing, the typing is great, and I would love to see this thing do a lot of work. I think it's got excellent partners with Clefable and Bisharp. That's a core right there. And this team is cool. I think that it is a strong... I didn't think of it at first, but this looks like a strong Trick Room team to me. Obviously, Garchomp aside, but there are a lot of slowish threats, and he's got Serena and Clefable, which are both great pairings for a Trick Room Slowking. One that can prevent it from being faked out, one that's going to be able to follow me it, and then he has really strong priority with Bisharp and Garchomp, obviously, to have a fast mode and perform well outside of Trick Room. I love Serena. I'm jealous. That thing is really good.
I think a lot of people wanted this Pokemon.
Yeah.
I feel like I heard a collective sigh when it got drafted.
Yeah, I'd love to see, one thing that would be cool to see on this team is whenever I look at Machamp, I'd love to use his critical boost effect. So, I'm sure a lot of these Pokemon do have Night Slash and moves that could potentially work off of that, but...
It might be interesting to see where Focus Energy occurs on this team or on any waivers that you might think of.
Yeah. Okay, hold on, guys. We're gonna. Sorry about that. We'll just continue our final thoughts on this team. I was just talking about how I think Slowking's just great, a great Pokemon. A lot of times I would look at Tier 2 and see both of the Slowbro and Slowking, and all of them. The Galar versions are also Tier 2, I'm pretty sure, and wonder if it's worth it. But after messing around a little bit with just having a great Trick Room Pokemon that can also support, they're really bulky.
Can they ally switch?
They can't ally switch. That's the one thing they can't do, but they can heal Pulse.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Which on a team like this, you'd be able to have just strong Trick Room with, even an offensive Clefable.
Yeah.
Could be great. And Slowking also just pairs well with Machamp with the weaknesses and being able to heal Pulse. That sort of setup while spreading confusion, all sorts of things. There's something to be said for great Trick Room support that can be offensive, defensive, really fill any sort of role.
We gotta say that we're happy to see Mawile on this team again.
Of course, yeah. Emilio really piloted it well last season, and we saw Mawile do some surprisingly effective battling. It has great abilities. In all three of them, obviously intimidates great. Sheer force gives it a little more oomph. But this thing just really has great typing. I've seen a few people talk about just how good Steel Fairy is. Obviously, like Zacian, the Uber that is banned from Ubers, also has this Steel Fairy typing, and I think we've only seen it on Klefki beyond this. But Mawile is not something that you should underestimate. And Magmar, another Pokemon that you shouldn't underestimate. I think Emilio saw its value when he played what team was it? The Wingulls with Magmar last season, and him pulling it together. This is a team in general that I'm like, wow, that's a good Pokemon. That's a good Pokemon. That's a good Pokemon on nearly everything I see.
Yeah.
Uxie is maybe the only Pokemon that has a little bit of redundancy with Slowking.
Yeah, I understand wanting 2 Trick Room options. And even though Pokemon like Golbat and Magmar, these lower tier Pokemon don't seem that impressive, I feel like they actually fill really good defensive roles. Like, Magmar is actually covering a lot of these Pokemon. Rotom Frost, Serena, Mawile.
Yeah. And even ice moves from Garchomp.
Yeah, so that one tier 4 Pokemon with an Eviolite is going to be putting in a lot of work. And Golbat could do the same thing for ground moves on these steel types, for fighting moves directed at Rotom. So I feel like there's already a lot of synergy here. And yeah, Uxie might be the one Pokemon that I would be looking to replace, but it would be probably for another Trick Roomer, because I don't know. Slowking's reliable, but he has a lot of weaknesses.
Yeah, very true.
You have redirection, though, so anything is possible.
Clefable is strong. We saw both Clefable and Clefairy get drafted, and I think both of those teams, with their hardy dragons, they're strong dragon partners to those little fairies, are going to be real tough to pick apart. Why don't we go ahead and move on here? I know we've spent a lot of time talking about teams, but we're going to try to keep everything to a little bit less than 10-minute time limit, just so we can make sure to get this out in a decent amount of time. Let's move on to the New Orleans Dugtrios, which are a new team for this season, piloted by Tut Tut, or Jason. Welcome to the draft, and excellent and scary first draft. I think this is one of, when I look at this and I look at the Wingulls, those teams are just offensively horrifying, as well as the Feraligators. This team, on the physical side of things, is just stacked. You have Cinderace and Landorus Therian for your tier 1s, Darmanitan, Ludicolo, Caesar for tier 2s, Heliolisk Vaporeon for the tier 3s, Dugtrio Alola as mascot Mon, along with Linoon, Throw, and Wailord to fill out the rest of the tier 4s. So I look at this team, and I saw these first 2 picks, and it just screams super offense. He got the Darmanitan, which recently dropped to tier 2. He's got Landorus, which is probably one of the scariest physical threats in VGC right now. And Cinderace, who not only gets the G-Max option to blast through Flash Fire and other immune granting abilities, but just the fact that Libero makes it such a versatile attacker, along with getting Airstream, just makes it great to have as a draft Pokemon. Do you have any opening thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think that Cinderace is a great pick. It's so fast. I mean, it's the physical attacker that I think has had some of the most success in a format that's just riddled with Intimidate. And I run it with White Herb, and I think that that's going to be something that he should probably consider, just because its ability is so good. That range of stab, it definitely has 4 move slot syndrome, but the rest of the team can patch that up. I think that this team will struggle with Intimidate maybe across the board, though, just because its special attacking options are limited. And I kind of look at... I feel like if this team was ever looking to waver, that it would be about picking 2 out of Cinderace, Landorus, and Darmanitan to keep. And maybe swapping one of those for a special attacking option. And maybe even considering the same for Scizor, not because it's a bad mon by any means, but because Cinderace kind of already has Fairy covered.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure what else you would really want the Steel for. It has Ice covered as well.
Yeah. I'm looking at this, and I think something I thought early on was we need to have competitive or defiant or some way to keep Intimidate from affecting this team too much. And I do think that answer could lie in Milotic in Tier 1. If the Dugtrios maybe were not super interested in keeping... I don't love Landorus Therian. I just have a tough time making him work, and I feel like he's even easier to read in a draft format. But he's absolutely monstrous, right, with what he can do. So think long and hard before you make any changes up in the higher tiers. But Milotic having competitive, which is the ability that when its stats drops, it gets a nasty plot, it gets +2 special attack, will just put so many of your opponents in a tough position because they can't really deal with both your Milotic and your physical threat.
Now, could he pull that off in a lower tier with Meowstic?
Yeah, this is something that I really think would be great, is Meowstic female Pokemon that was not picked up, but I would recommend going to check out because it gets Fake Out, it gets Trick Room, it has competitive, it's in Tier 3, it's not as frail as you might think, and it's got a great speed tier, clocking in at like 105, I think, or 102, a little bit above 100. And that Pokemon just being able to protect... and potentially, it's going to absorb Dynamax and get a nasty plot, or just be on the field and you can protect and get a nasty plot, not to mention throw out Fake Outs. I just think that you might be able to find a spot for it on this team. Maybe getting rid of Heliolisk or Vaporeon, but both of those are obviously great water resists for your team and great Pokemon. We were talking about this team a little bit a while ago and felt that like Ludicolo might be something they could switch up to, and Crobat as being an option that would make this team very scary because you just get an immediate speed boost. Crobat having 130 speed, can't be flinched, and it can just set up Tailwind. That's kind of a cool alternate to having Landorus just be blasting out Airstreams. That leaves you to have like a Choice Band Darmanitan Galar, which is just going to be so strong, even without maxing.
Yeah, and that Pokemon might not care about Intimidate.
Yeah, true enough. Another Pokemon I was thinking that would be interesting for this team is the Slowbro Galar. Helps with Imprisoned Trick Room. Obviously, you don't want to deal with Trick Room with this team. Also has the ability Curious Medicine, that when it switches in, it hazes your partner. Now, this is an ability that's kind of hard to manage well, obviously, because if you max Steel Spike, you're going to get +1. You don't want to bring in your Slowking and just get rid of that. But it is a great anti-intimidate strategy. You don't need to pack White Herb when you have White Herb on a Pokemon. And it also has some other cool application. And, can heal, pulse, can do stuff. We've talked about Slowking on the Mawiles team. But I do think that there are a couple of options that would take this team from, it's kind of a glass cannon team with a lot of glass cannon Pokemon. And I think that with a few tweaks, this could be really, really threatening. I just think you need to take down the levels of straight offense here. I agree that Scizor is kind of, maybe replace him with Crobat to have that Tailwind option. I do think Meowstic would be cool. If you got rid of Ludicolo, Meowstic could cover your Fake Out loss.
Kind of a cool Pokemon here that would add to the Rock weakness, but is a great special attacker in Tier 2 is Vanillix.
Vanillix.
Yeah, and I feel like it can stop Trick Room. It gets Taunt. It would add some bulk to this team through Aurora Veil. and it can function pretty well both in Trick Room or in Tailwind if he decides to go with Crobat. And I don't really think that Ludicolo and Scizor are bad mons. I just feel like Ludicolo gets its value on a dedicated rain team by providing fake out support and hitting opposing water types, and that Scizor gets its utility by hitting very specific types that the team can't handle, like Fairy.
Yeah. Would you ever consider turning this into a rain team?
Yeah,
because Ludicolo and Scizor are already on it, and Heliolisk, and I'm like, well,
yeah,
you could also just grab Pelipper or Politoed.
Yeah,
I guess
Politoed's
taken.
Gone, but Pelipper actually, if this team, listen, I had a really successful rain team, counterintuitively, that ran Cinderace on it, because Pyro Ball is so powerful that it still kills Ferrothorn in rain if they're not running Octoberry. So I was running Cinderace, and then, the typical rain core, and this could totally do that with Pelipper, and I believe there still are a few cool Swift Swimmers.
Yeah, there's definitely still Beartic, Seismitoad.
Did Omastar get picked up?
I'm not sure. No, because we saw it in a exhibition match.
Yeah, so Omastar is a very threatening option that I almost picked over Kabutops. Almost. And it gets the coolest move, Reflect type.
Yeah, it is a
very cool defensive move.
Yeah.
For something with a quad weakness.
Yeah, for something with a quad weakness and a high defense stat.
Yeah,
that could be used very fun.
Plus, it's got monster special attack. It's got Meteor Beam. So this, I hadn't thought about that, but this already has Wailord. It already has the water absorbers.
Yeah.
It has Scizor with now no real weakness.
Right.
And wow, maybe Landorus goes for Pelipper, and maybe one of the water absorber goes for Omastar.
Yeah.
And this team is suddenly...
Yeah, I could see dropping Vaporeon, Omastar, and then just having special and physical offenses.
Yeah, and listen, Darmanitan and Scizor fit great into that concept because they handle the grass types.
Yeah.
Right? Cinderace, Darmanitan, Scizor all handle the grass types that Rain struggles with.
That would be cool. Well, just something to think about. We don't want to shake things too much, but...
Keep the Dugtrio.
Yeah, keep the Dugtrio. All right, let's jump next to the Rathdrum Beatings. Okay, this is a team that I think a lot about. I think it's really strong. I think that, both Carter and I were frustrated with Riley picking up Articuno Galar because we both hoped that it would make it back to us. Carter probably was going to nab it first, but I almost considered grabbing this very, very first before Thundurus because I think it's an amazing Pokemon. It has competitive, it has Tailwind and Trick Room and Ally Switch, and it has an incredibly strong max Airstream coming off of Hurricane, even though it only has, 85 special attack? Or is 125, is that its special attack?
Yeah,
okay.
It's got massive special attack.
And then he was able to form right at the top here a really strong core with Ferrothorn, Incineroar, Araquanid. I'll just mention the other Pokemon he has: Goodra, Marowak, Tentacruel, Crustle, Girder, Magneton, and Rotom Original. But yeah, we talked about this a little bit with the Jacksons team, but when you have Pokemon that are really strong in a core and also give you just like the extra cherry on top, that just becomes great because the Pokemon you are mainly bringing in battles all work well together. Incineroar has really high usage for a reason. And to me, first off, I think Dark is a good type right now. He has Fake Out, he has Intimidate, he has Parting Shot. He just has an amazing toolkit all wrapped up into an offensive and bulky Pokemon with a good type. Ferrothorn is a great late game win condition and an amazing switch in for just so many things. Riley would have, for his Articuno Galar getting hit with a rock move, for his Incineroar getting hit with a water move, for his Araquanid even getting hit with flying. Ferrothorn's going to take it just fine. Just a lot of bulk. Look at Goodra. Look at Marowak. Look at Tentacruel. Look at Crustle.
Yeah.
All these Pokemon
Girder, Magneton, incredible bulk.
have incredible bulk. And a Rotom, not bulky, but it's fast and it can Will-O-Wisp, at least. Thunderwave. Be really annoying. Marowak is obviously an amazing partner for Araquanid and Articuno Galar. We see the Alolan Marowak used with Articuno Galar a lot. Has Lightning Rod. Helps take those hits. There is the option Brutal Swing with Tentacruel, which I like to use with Articuno. I think there's a lot to do here. Tailwind or Trick Room.
Yeah, I mean, Articuno Marowak is pretty great. It's got to watch out for ice.
Yeah.
But with a Tentacruel in the back, with Araquanid in the back, with
Incineroar
in the back, it doesn't really have to worry about
with
ice.
Magneton in the back.
Yeah, he's got the types covered on this team. And I feel like that it's probably one of the strongest drafts in terms of that. And Riley always has the cool factor locked down. Like all these Pokemon are cool. I worry that the issue this team will have is that it puts a lot of pressure on Articuno to be the speed control.
Yeah.
Whether he goes Trick Room or Tailwind.
So true.
Or Max Airstream. Articuno is kind of going to be a big target. I guess Crustle and Magneton and Rotom can do some speed control of their own. Tentacruel can with Icy Wind. So I think Riley will probably get creative with that, knowing that his Articuno is going to be a big target. But I also think it's going to take a lot of kills because that ability is really underrated.
Yeah. It's just going to be about item and who you pair it with so often and how well it's going to go off. But yeah, maybe a secondary Trick Room wouldn't be a bad idea. Something that would complement Articuno.
Yeah, this looks more like a Trick Room team than it does a Tailwind team. I think he can take a lot of people by surprise with Tailwind.
Yeah.
But it's not... There's nothing that's too fast. I think Tentacruel is his fastest Pokemon. And 100 is respectable, so, an Icy Wind coming off of that is great, but it is susceptible to fake out. So, maybe backup Trick Room, or maybe just a way, Max Strike, I think, is a really forgotten way to get speed control. And
Sticky Web.
Yeah, and he's got Sticky Web, too. But this team has offense lying in all sorts of places. Like Magneton, Girder, Crustle can all do some pretty impressive damage in their own right.
Yeah, and them both having Sturdy. It's just something that I think has more value than you think. Because Sash, working around Sash is very annoying. And when you're facing a team that can slap Sash on their Articuno and then have a Crustle and then have a Magneton.
Yeah, because it would be a pain to have to pick the right resist berry with Articuno.
Yeah.
But why not he's going to have to pick between Sash and Mental Herb, I think.
Yeah, or weakness policy.
Or weakness policy some games. I think competitive will be also very cool even on support variants.
Yeah.
Because he'll just get random drops from Dynamax moves, and as long as he has a attack along with Ally Switch and whatever it's doing, he's going to be able to kill stuff even without Dynamaxing, and it's going to be cool.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just going to be... I'm just thinking about, who you are pairing Articuno with to bait out those stat-lowering moves, like the Wormwind and stuff. But that's something that Riley's going to have to think about.
I don't really have suggestions for Riley. He's my second week match, and I've already tried to plan a team for this, and I don't see big gaping holes because he has something on the team in the back each time that can be switched in just to really slow the game down, and that's how Riley likes to play, and that's what I like about playing Riley.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how this goes for Riley because I feel like his last team was definitely more fast and offensive. We saw from last season, and it didn't seem like the usual way that he likes to play. And so this, I feel, we're going to get way more bulky offense switching and just play style that I think fits Riley's way of life.
And he's got... Look, Marowak's just going to do big damage, but in Goodra, Articuno, or Araquanid, he's got potential offense that he could tap with weakness policy, life orb, all sorts of options. But this looks like a bulky team. It is a bulky team, but it's also got a lot of power.
A lot of power. Yeah, you can't deny that. I just think you have the best of both worlds. I'm thinking about Snarl Incineroar with Goodra Breaking Swipe. To deal with that. I'm thinking of Icy Wind Tentacruel. He's got great options. The only thing is, like, no super easy way to deal with strong weather. But obviously we have the Ferrothorn for the rain team. And
helps for sand, too.
Yeah, helps against sand in the most part, too. And obviously he's got some answers back here that might help, too. With a Girder being surprisingly maybe effective against that T-Tar Excadrill team.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right, let's move on to the next. Great team, Riley. Very excited. We'll watch your career with great, whatever Palpatine says.
Bated breath.
Yeah. All right, Rose City Roserades. Okay, I'm excited to take a look at this team again.
Welcome back, James.
Back. After 10 years, maybe longer, of a lapse in SPF tournaments, we welcome James Dunlap back to the draft, coaching the Rose City Roserades. And off the bat, I had a little bit of contention with James just because we seem to want a lot of the same Pokemon. Found out later that he was interested in Metagross. I was interested in Bellossom. A lot of Pokemon I'm looking at here. And I think that this team is another one of the teams that I just really like. So let's just take an overview here. We've got Dusclops and Marowak Alola as the Tier 1 Ghost types here. Azelf, Blastoise, Ninetales, Alola as Tier 2s. Luxray, Skarmory for Tier 3s. Bellossom, Maractus, Spiritomb, and Unpheasant for Tier 4s. Do you have any opening thoughts on this?
I'm excited for this because what I remember about James is that he loves to find the weird stuff about Pokemon and make it work. He likes to win with strange stuff, and so I know that when I play him, I'm going to be looking for combos. I feel like this Marowak is really important to the team. I mean, it's got great typing. It does great damage by itself, but I think that it's here for its ability because I feel like he's going to try and tap the Mega or the Gigantamax Blastoise. Its passive damage, it does more than, like, the passive damage alone adds up to more than one Pokemon dying. It's like 136% or something like that. So I feel like he's going to tap into that, and I wonder if it's going to be a Skarmory partner as well. He got Intimidate. He got some bulk just through Aurora Veil. I'm glad that he has his signature Blossom, even though you wanted it. I've seen Unpheasant do some crazy stuff with its crit ability.
Yeah.
And he's got Tailwind through that. So this has got both speed controls, and I'm excited. I think that Azelf is the really unexpected pick and a Pokemon that I've never considered in BGC. And so that's the one I'm especially interested to see what he does with.
Yeah. I love Blastoise. I wanted Blastoise so badly, and I think that it is an incredible Pokemon. I think it should be Tier 1 almost, with the Gigantamax bundled in, just because that passive damage is incredible. Without having to deal with Sandstorm yourself. The only downside is that Blastoise is maybe not what you want to Dynamax because he has a lot of support options. I used Wartortle in the recent exhibition match, and having Haze, having Fake Out are just awesome to have on a bulky Pokemon with not many weaknesses.
Another Icy Winder, too.
Another Icy Winder. Blastoise can Shell Smash. Blastoise is just a very versatile Pokemon that has the bulk to be able to handle all of that, which is awesome. Another Pokemon, I think Ninetales Alola is an amazing Tier 2, just with the Aurora Veil and the weather option. I was just now thinking that, I would love to see the Azelf do work, but I'm also interested in potentially seeing this team waiver Arctozolt for tier 2. There's also Sandslash Alola as an option. We saw Tyler pick that up last season, but I think Arctozolt is better. Has more options, has great versatility, and it could just add to a really scary, fast mode for this team. Obviously, it doubles up on some of his types, so he might not want to do that. And Azelf can do plenty of things itself. So, far be it for me to say that you should do that. Just consider it.
You know what? I'm gonna gang up on this Pokemon with you because I don't know what it does. I kind of want to see you play with it and show me what it does a little bit. But if I was going to swap a Pokemon off this team, it would also be this tier 2 for Persian Alola. Because I think that with Dusclops and Marowak
dark type
and Azelf, you have a ghost problem and you have a dark problem, and you want a dark other than Spiritomb to suck up those hits.
True.
Because I feel like Dragapult might give this team some trouble. I don't know that Ninetales is enough to handle something like Dragapult. So
yeah, and the other strong ghosts and dark types that we're seeing get picked up. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what other options you might... I love Luxray. Like, other Pokemon that I wouldn't want to change, because Luxray just has an amazing toolkit. Skarmory, I think, has a great typing and some cool things that you can do. I was kind of down on Spiritomb last season when I saw Ben pick him up, but it does have a strong Sucker Punch. You know what? I never quite realized how strong this thing is.
It's a powerful mixed attacker.
Yeah.
It's got good bulk. I mean, you're going to want to invest in that HP, but I feel like with an Assault Vest and just a bunch of attacks, I feel like he might be interested in this Pokemon even as a Shadow Sneak weakness policy user. Who knows? But it can Will-O-Wisp. It's got some pretty good support moves.
Yeah. Well, that makes me think that Azelf might have weakness policy usability.
Yeah.
It's dang fast and
it's dang
mixed
fast,
attacker.
but it's not bulky, and Spiritomb hits hard, so...
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he can clearly... Dusclops has Shadow Sneak too, right?
Yeah, Dusclops is probably good for that. Mm-hmm. I was surprised at how much my Frostlass did to that Naganadel last night. I was like, ooh, gotta rethink this strategy.
Do you know does Persian Alola get Sunny Day? Because that would be a cool way to have a pseudo chlorophyll set up, because I'm trying to think of which Pokemon he might have with Sunny Day. Just because the After You with Maractus is so strong with his Marowak.
Yeah.
And potentially even like a Water Spout Blastoise. But you'd be in the sun, so never mind. But with Marowak Flare Blitzing, with After You, that would be a cool thing. Even, I guess he doesn't even need it, because he can just Dynamax Marowak, set up his own sun.
He can.
And then start After Youing. Forget I said anything. Oh yeah, I'm very excited. I think that he's got great... Doubling up on some types, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, because as we've talked about before, you just bring what you need to bring for a battle. And I do see Blastoise probably coming to every single game. Maybe with Marowak also.
Yeah, they're great
together.
They're a great team. You know, and Marowak can even ally switch into grass moves.
Yeah.
So it's a...
Yeah, that's one thing
nice
that
combination.
I love normal Marowak, but Marowak Alola getting ally switch really changes the game when you have 3 immunities, and you can just also be an incredible threat. Yeah, great first draft to James, and very excited to see the matches that come in your team building for this. Maybe you'll want to trade Blossom down the line. We can talk. Let's move on to my first opponent for the season, the Saffron City Crocs, who was rocking, I think, not including playoffs, had the Pokemon with the most kills last season, or at least one of the most kills with Celesteela. We've seen that combo transition to another team, but here we have Moltres Galar with Grimmsnarl as the tier 1s, Barraskewda and Lucario and Registeel for tier 2s, Decidueye and Electivire for tier 3s, Cryogonal, Quagsire, Thwackey, and Xatu for tier 4s. Right off the bat, we see this Moltres Cryogonal combo that you seem to do quite well with last season. Moltres Galar is just one of the most threatening Pokemon in draft because it has that amazing bulk paired with that very cool unique move that's basically like a special rock slide. He has Berserk, great ability. Grimmsnarl, another powerful dark Pokemon here that is just incredible support. That can also do the G-Max thing now and come off with offense. I'd like to see if there's any way we could get is there a bullet punch user? Just would love to see some pickpocketing to going on with the Grimmsnarl even as an option. There's a lot of cool things going on with this team. I love Registeel. I think it's great even with the bump up to tier 2. I think Decidueye is a strong Pokemon. Cryogonal is a strong tier 4. Thwackey is a strong tier 4. Quagsire is a strong tier 4. Xatu is a strong tier 4. Another team where I'm looking at things that are all pretty good. The only thing that I'm wondering... Lucario is the Pokemon that I feel like is awkward here for me. I don't know why. I think that fighting isn't great. We've already got the Steel. And we don't have a beat-up user, which I would love to see the Crocs think about picking up, because Lucario could become a monster if you got a fast beat-up user. I know there's still Sneasel on the table, but then you are kind of tripling up on dark types. What are your thoughts on this team?
Well, my initial thought is that Isaac has 4 of my Pokemon from last draft. My Morgrem evolved in the process, but Quagsire, Cryogonal, and the Moltres. And I think that his team has done a much better job protecting that Moltres, just with great defensive picks. Like, I love that he could just switch in an Electivire, get a speed boost, and then use its fantastic move pool and an Expert Belt to just snipe. Lucario is a cool partner defensively to Moltres. To be able to switch into rock very easily, switch into ice pretty easily. Registeel can do the same, so I see what you're saying about the redundance. I think that just Grimmsnarl Moltres Galar is going to be a frightening opening.
Bring your dazzling gleamers.
Yeah, because, I mean, this thing can fake tears after the Moltres sets up alongside a fake out. So... Moltres' problem is that it can't do a lot of damage initially without a weakness policy boost, but with a sharp special defense drop, who cares? I love the Barraskewda pick. I think that's the cool flavor pick for this team. Maybe he has a rain option here, but what's more exciting to me is Propeller Tail. The thing is already fast. It's already faster than most everything that we were able to pick. And it's already strong, so I think he's just going to be able to use it to point and click and take kills when he wants to, when we have a lot of redirection on the field this draft.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm thinking of, Cryogonal ice sharding your Snowball Barraskewda. It's hard to get the weakness policy off on this sucker, but if you see this thing with +1 attack maxed with this speed and that attack stat coming for, Ryan's Dragapult that he pairs with Clefairy, or Emilio's Garchomp that he pairs with Clefable, or your Tornadus with your Tangrowth. Like, this Propeller Tail is just going to let Barraskewda ignore all that and get a very important kill on what it needs to in a lot of cases.
You know what? I love that, because Moltres can have the weakness policy and still benefit from that Ice Shard, and with those 3 you have frightening speed and power. Both.
Now I'm going to face this.
Yeah. This is great. Can Decidueye ally switch?
I'm not sure.
I'd be interested in that. I'm interested to see if he goes for Grassy Surge mode with Decidueye, throwing the offense out.
Yeah. I always am looking for unburden users, but fail to think about just having that extra stab. You're throwing it onto your strong grass moves here.
Quagsire would be a great partner in that kind of scenario, right? Its
Definitely.
only weakness would be covered by the rest of your team or those steel types you got. And I just got to congratulate this Xatu pick. I wanted it. I think that it probably deserves higher than tier 4 just because it's almost a guaranteed trick room thanks to that ability.
Yeah, with Sash, you have to fake it out.
Yeah, but you just put protect on it, and you have to max move it, and then like it gets complicated because
for
it
a
can't
tier
be
4.
Yeah,
For a tier 4. Yeah, there was a lot of contention. I know Carter believes that this thing is way too good for a tier 4 as well, but I do not know if it would have been used in tier 3, and now we get to see
I'm excited.
Xatu in its prime.
Yeah, and I didn't have the ways to protect my flying types, and he has all the defensive answers to protect his flying types and his water type.
Yeah.
So, good job, Isaac. This just looks like a clean, well-organized, balanced draft that has a little bit of everything.
Yeah. I'm looking at this team, and because I'm facing it this week, and I'm thinking, wow, it's really almost impossible to prepare for everything that this team can do.
Yeah, like what if he just goes Registeel behind screens option? He doesn't. He can just stall entire teams out if he wants to.
Or he can just weakness policy. I lost week 1 to a frightening weakness policy Registeel just breaking through stuff, and the fact that he has a lot of these modes to go to and a lot of these combos will just make team building very fun and give him a lot of options and give his opponents a hell of a time in trying to figure out how to properly deal with everything. Like Electivire switching in to a attack meant for Moltres, picking up that speed boost, and then starting to dish out things itself.
And maxing. Maybe
it's
that's
just
the maxer.
Great. He just got really good partners, right? There's good things. I'm still not sold on the Lucario, but I think that Isaac likes Lucario. And I do know that it is a strong Pokemon.
Well, yeah, and here's how I like Lucario because it's always a guess as to whether it's going to go mixed or not. Mm-hmm. Like, this thing can Steel Beam Aurasphere if it wants to, or it can go physical. And I'm wondering if it has the potential to be a weakness policy mon. Perhaps some with, like, Flip Turn. I would want to know how, or no. No, that doesn't do it. He doesn't have Mach Punch. But I don't know. Bulldoze, potentially.
Yeah. Do you have any Brutal Swing users? I don't think so.
You want to get the Justified?
Justified? Yeah. I think Justified is just a really strong part of Lucario and part of why he's so...
Can Grimmsnarl Sucker Punch? I think it can.
Yeah, that could definitely be a way.
That's actually a cool way to do it because you're guaranteed to attack first into it.
Yeah, but even just as a switch-in, I could see moments where you switch in from your Xatu Decidueye and you get that boost, potentially.
It's also a coaching option. I know that we want to see that.
Mm-hmm. Coaching, copycat, and potentially fast enough to be able to use it in certain situations. Yeah, this is cool. I think that this team fits Isaac for some reason to me. And he's still got his strong flying threat. And I'm excited to see, and his strong fake out user, I'm excited to see how he makes the transition here. Okay, we're back with the Seattle Seaking, the team that took second place of last season and got a pretty early pick. Was able to grab Dragapult as the first tier 1 and pair it with Clefairy. For tier 2s, we have Blaziken, Salazzle, and Vikavolt. Tier 3s, Aggron and Duosion. And tier 4s, Barbaracle, Credilli, Purloin, and Sandslash. Now, this is a team that I do think is pretty scary. It's got a lot of offensive potential here, and Clefairy is obviously going to do an amazing job with that. For those of you that are not super familiar, Clefairy has the ability Friend Guard that is basically giving an Aurora Veil to his ally. I'm not sure. Does it give it to itself too? I think it's just to its ally.
Just the ally.
But it doesn't need to give it to itself when you can run Eviolite. You're going to be protecting every other turn, and you've got Follow Me. This thing can also do, After You in Trick Room, which is just amazing because it's got like 30 base speed or 20 speed or something. It's a threatening Pokemon in a very cute package, and I think that when I saw Clefairy Dragapult, I was really scared. The rest of the team, I was kind of interested by. Obviously, Blaziken is a Pokemon. It dropped from Tier 1 to Tier 2 at my suggestion, and I am afraid of what Orion's going to be able to do with this thing, because Speed Boost Baton Pass is not a joke. We've seen a lot of Mr. Rime using Baton Pass on VGC, and it can definitely be pulled off, but I think that you need to have a little bit better of receivers than we're seeing on this team beyond Dragapult. I think Blaziken giving, a Swords Dance to Dragapult and switching out on a strong fighting attack, a strong water attack, could be quite scary. But I think it's going to have a harder time with some of these other Pokemon. Maybe Vikavolt for ground type to be able to switch out and give it just some speed boosts could be really cool. I think that's what Ryan's going for.
Yeah, and Aggron's there for some other moves.
Yeah, for rock.
Yeah.
Duosion is a very cool Trick Room Pokemon that, people might be surprised to see that it has incredible special attack. Big 125 there, and with Eviolite, it's still pretty bulky. So that's actually a pretty strong pickup for a Trick Room user. Obviously, we see Credilli that performed very well for Nels last season, and Purloin, which is a great utility Pokemon. I know Carter has always said that anybody that's picking up Liepard should think about Purloin, just because it can do pretty much everything else, though it is kind of taking up your sash. All those Pokemon I really like. I think Barbarical is also good. I just think that I'm not in love with Salazzle Vikavolt. Obviously, I'm not going to fault Ryan for picking up Vikavolt because he did so well for him last season. And Salazzle obviously did well too, but I do agree with Carter's sentiment in his written review that they are maybe not the best Tier 2 Pokemon. And maybe not the best for this team, because I do see some compounded weaknesses to rock and ground and even water on this team, where it's going to be kind of awkward to switch in certain things. When you have your only rock resistance is Aggron, Sandslash, water you need Credilli, and your big hitters are taking some of those pretty strongly.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a different perspective. I feel like he picked Vikavolt really intentionally, and that we all look at the special attack, but that defensively it's amazing. Like, it's strangely bulky, and like he can switch into ground moves, he can switch into electric aimed at Barbarical, he can switch into steel aimed at Credilli, grass aimed at Sandslash. So I see a lot of synergy, and I do agree that if Blaziken is going to be like a speed boost baton passer, that I don't see a lot of great mid-tier speed options, because it's generally pretty slow across the board. But I see a pretty scary Sun team with like Follow Me Clefairy next to a Blaziken.
Just setting up.
Throwing out either Max Airstream or throwing out Max Fire, and then a Salazzle in the back just cleaning up.
Yeah.
So I think that he's got the Trick Room obviously on lock with Duosion and Clefairy and whatever of these slow, bulky guys he wants. But he's got a surprising fast mode where Blaziken itself could be the main attacker, honestly. And it's just kind of scary that it keeps... Like, what if it's just max knuckling while also getting speed boosts? And then Dragapult is inheriting those attack boosts at the same time,
Yeah, this might be, maybe Ryan taught us a lesson about how Vikavolt shouldn't have been Tier 3, and this is going to be the season where he teaches us a lesson about Blaziken.
Yeah, it's possible. He might punish us for sending it down the tier.
He's got a lot of great setup options, too, just across this board. Like, Yeah. Barbarical. Setting up, you know, to get Shell Smash, right?
Yeah.
Aggron rock polishing while this Clefairy can just sit there. This Swords Dancing and getting a speed boost at the same time, even if it's not for baton passing,
Yeah.
but just for
Yeah.
Dragapult, right? So we see a lot of just threatening lead options to build off of Clefairy. I just think that,
This is maybe a situation actually where Clefairy is being asked to do a whole lot. Like Dragapult can hang turn one, no problem. And you know, Casey showed us that Dragapult Salazzle is no joke.
yeah, great.
So, but Clefairy looks like it's the key to many strategies on this team. And, you know, all it takes is a feint and a strong move to erase it.
Yeah, and I think it's a situation like Carter was in with Whimsicott, maybe, in which, you know what you have to do to it, but does it matter? Maybe not, and maybe that will allow Ryan to just easily play around. Well, you know, Mark's team has this as fake out. He has to bring low punny, so I'm just going to bring this and this, and it's going to be no problem. So it's maybe going to make opponents of Ryan have to think up some creative things just because he has those really strong offensive options. And if he doesn't bring Clefairy, like you could be screwed because you were so prepared for it and you brought your low punny.
Yeah, exactly.
Sandslash is great anti-sand team.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that this, even though it has Vikavolt, having the electric immunity is pretty, it's just nice.
Yeah. I just think, I don't know, just big water weakness again. I know this happened last season, and it didn't really matter, because clearly he got to top 2.
Yeah, Dragapult and Credilli.
Yeah, Credilli can do a lot of work, obviously.
Yeah.
All right, should we
I
move
like
on?
it. Yeah, I don't have a
Waiver suggestion for this. I like watching him play because he's very intentional. It's like watching a chess match. And I believe that these resistances and immunities that we do see are very, I just think that they're intentional, you know, and he plays kind of the slow, bulky Pokemon well. And so I see Credilli and Sandslash kind of falling in line with Vikavolt.
Yeah, I think Ryan he's an amazing player, and it seems like he's a team builder that likes what he likes and likes what's done well for him. And you know, we've seen that a lot before with Arcanine, which I think he's drafted 2 or 3 times, and I know he loves Vikavolt. Obviously, we see the repeat, and the Rhyperior is maybe reinventing itself in the Aggron here. So I'm very excited to see his comfort and his information of what does well kind of combine in this season. We'll see how that plays out. But for now, let's move on to the Shoulda, Coulda, Woodos, piloted by Joe. Right, the Amoonguss team. All right, so for Tier 1, we have Amoonguss Charizard. Tier 2, Aegislash Azumarill and Runerigus. Tier 3, Bolthund Chansey. Tier 4, Glalie, Shuckle, Trapinch, Vulpix.
I love this team. I just love this team. His draft last season was exciting. It was as exciting as this. He had all the offensive options. I think that this has just gotten more sophisticated because he's obviously got a great redirector. He's got great trick room options. He's got some scary, just weird combos with like Azumarill, Runerigus, or Shuckle Chansey. He's got a really strong anti-intimidate option. He's got a weather option. Charizard itself is just kind of a frightening thing to build your whole team around.
Yeah.
And I think this team can probably do a little bit of everything. It's just going to be fun to see what he decides on each week. He'll probably feel like he's struggling to select a team of 6 because all of these Pokemon seem to kind of play off each other and they interact really well. So I'm just excited about this. I'm scared of fighting Chansey.
Yeah, I think that as soon as I saw the Shuckle, the Chansey pickup, even just the Shuckle, like there are a lot of things that you could just make a nightmare to play against with the guard share. I think that's the move, or guard split.
Guard split, yeah.
Where it averages defenses, and so you have a Chansey that is getting 140. The calculations don't hash out to that, but it's gonna bump up to at least base 100 defense with investment, and then have that massive HP. And so I think if Joe plays his cards right with that setup, it can just become unwinnable for people to have to face it if you can't do it. And it's hard to do it, right? Sturdy Shuckle can run Mental Herb and not be taunted. And then once that Chansey gets those stats and can start minimizing or something, you're in for bad time.
It's just the perfect mix of utility / support.
And offensive power. Like, you look at every single Pokemon on this team, maybe barring Glalie, which I happen to just love, and I do think it's cool. And you know what it's there for. Like, you know what it does really well. You know that there is maybe going to be a surprise with something like Runerigus. But, like, Aegislash is great. I think that Azumarill can be his main attacker. Runerigus could be his main attacker. Charizard could be his main attacker. And then stuff like Trapinch and Bullpix are just really good utility picks for that Focus Sash if you need them for specific matchups.
Yeah, the Bullpix helping out the Charizard, not something I thought enough about, but very scary. Obviously, the Trapinch could be annoying if you have this Chansey set up, or if you have a Pokemon that you want to get set up just for trapping things. Glalie, I see Moody with Guard Split and Protect
cool.
and getting the evasion boost that way.
Glalie with Inner Focus is also great just because it can Icy Wind.
Yeah, it can just do stuff.
Yeah.
And so beyond this little toolbox of great things down here, then I scroll back up and I'm just looking at these first 5 Pokemon and seeing how well they complement each other. Beyond the combined ghost types, but those are, taken care of a little bit with Azumarill here. But Amoonguss, Charizard, Azumarill is very strong, and Runerigus pads into that for the rock resistance. Same with Aegislash.
Yeah, he got 2 great rock resists of different types.
Yeah, both ghosts, which have obviously great immunities here. I think this is just a strong... He checked the boxes,
Could he do, I don't know if Runerigus can Shadow Sneak, but I could see a pretty frightening weakness policy Aegislash Trick Room mode.
Yeah, I don't think it can, but I could totally be wrong. I'm not sure. But yeah,
there's just tons of supportive options. I like to think of Shuckle
in all the other ways it can facilitate things. Like Guard Split is what we're seeing, but it can Encore. Infestation is super annoying for trapping things. Mm-hmm. I think it can do things like Bulldoze, which if you're going Trick Room is really great.
Yeah. So the only thing I'm noticing is that there is no Fake Out on this team, which
if you have Redirect is okay.
Yeah. It is just scary if you're facing down like big offensive threats and you're trying to set something up, because your Redirect is unfortunately limited to Amoonguss in that Pokemon with, what are they called? Protective goggles.
Yeah.
Can be immune to
that's true.
Rage Powder.
Are there any other...
I could see Boltund for, if he wants to keep competitive and grab Fake Out, I could see Boltund for Meowstic.
I could see that too, yeah.
In terms of Tier 4, Wartortle, I'm not sure if it's still... Yeah, it's still available. So I could see him maybe Trapinch or Glalie.
Yeah.
For Wartortle. It's not bad to double up on water with what he's got going on, and it's a strong Fake Out. Not to say that you absolutely need Fake Out, but because he has some setup options... and because he has threatening Pokemon that definitely are going to be targeted, whether it's in the lower tiers of the Shuckle or it's that Azumarill or that Charizard, I think that having Fake Out as an option might help.
I think so too, and I would, even though I think Aegislash is a good Pokemon, I think that something like Persian Alola on this team would just be great, because it's speed control through Icy Wind for something like Charizard, or even Azumarill. You get stab, foul play, and I think that if you're going to try and set up Trick Room with Runerigus, you want to be able to protect it from opposing dark types, opposing ghost types, and Chansey can't be the defensive answer to Ghost.
Yeah, and with this sort of team, I feel like I keep forgetting moves. What's it? Parting Shot is just a great option to facilitate some of the combos he might want. Like Shuckle lead with your Persian, and then you can just give a little bit anything. Yeah. Guard swap after
after parting
shotting your opponent's Dynamax, and you can just wait out their Dynamax by giving a little bit of defense, and then your Shuckle can switch out later.
Yeah, so that would be my suggestion. I know I've suggested it to another team, but it's a Pokemon that I think deserves its tier 2 standing, and I'm surprised that it's
you and Nels love Persian Alola so much. Persian normal is actually a good option too.
Persian is good as well, actually, for
tier 4. So
and
think about that too, Joe.
Listen, Joe, a lot of people are probably going to try and prepare for this team with Resist Berries. And it would be just great to watch Charizard and Azumarill shred through stuff that thought it was going to survive.
Yeah.
Thanks to Unnerve. So maybe the tier 4 Persian is the one to look at.
That's true.
A fast Fake Out and fast Icy Wind and Taunt and all that stuff could really benefit.
Yeah, that's my new rec, I think, over Meowstic. Though I think that's also cool. And you don't have Psychic offense at this point. But just for value, Persian is a great tier 4. We saw Tyler do work with it last night.
Yeah.
But yeah, very excited to see this, Joe. I hope that we get to see some Shuckle action. Let's go ahead and move on. I think we're getting to the end here, but we have a few more. Let's move on to the Starhill Warriors, piloted by Mark Castile. Has shifted from a very strong and threatening Sun team to a very strong and threatening Rain team this season, with the tier 1s of Kingdra and Politoed, followed by Butterfree, Escavalier, and Meowstic Male for tier 2, Kingler, Manectric for tier 3, Cloyster, Pinsir, Roselia, and Seaking for tier 4. I like seeing Mark embrace this weather. It's interesting to me because he didn't seem to really love the Sun combo and ended up wavering it away last time. But now we do see a very strong water team form. I think Escavalier, like Caesar, which we saw with Jason's team, is just an amazing Pokemon to put on a Rain team. It's bulky. It obviously gets that one weakness kind of tempered with the Rain. Meowstic is great support for Rain too, because it can priority Rain Dance in a pinch. It gets Fake Out. It can priority Thunder Wave if you're dealing with Pokemon that are outspeeding you with Tailwind. So I think that's great on the Rain team. I think Manectric is great on this Rain team with Lightning Rod. And Seaking, I think we think of Seaking as a joke, but it's not terrible for a tier 4 just to have the Lightning Rod and the Swift Swim available for this team. I do think that Mark maybe went a little bit overboard in the water types, because he's just going to have a tough time bringing some of these Pokemon when he has better things available. Like the Cloyster versus the Kingdra, or the Seaking versus the Manectric, when he already has a strong Swift Swimmer. So I think he could probably make some changes to really make this a more threatening... Like, I'm thinking picking up Beartic as a swift swimmer with strong ice offense to deal with the dragon types that are going to resist him.
What tier is Beartick?
Tier 3.
Yeah, Beartick's a good option. I know that it might be important for him to keep Kingler on this team, just as a signature Pokemon.
Yeah, he loves Kingler.
I respect that. I think Kingler does crazy damage, and it's going to be fun to see that in Rain, and it's going to be fun to see a different flavor of Rain where instead of using Swift Swim for the speed control, it's his move.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Right.
So you actually have a slow Rain team that I want to say I'm excited about. You got my Politoed, and you should consider the move Perish Song on this team because your Kingdra Politoed mode is super fast. It's easy to take quick kills, but it's hard to maintain momentum with that. And if Politoed comes back in the late game, throws out a Perish Song and just protects, and the partner protects, you can just win. You can win whatever the conditions are as long as you die last.
Yeah.
So I would think about this team with that move and with Politoed filling more of a role than just Drizzle. And when I'm thinking about that and an ice type, it also might be fun to... I don't know if Abomasnow got drafted.
No, I think still available.
But what I like about Abomasnow is it would give you a soundproof option if you want to play with that. But it's also maybe good on a Rain team to just have a different weather option.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to anticipate Rain and only Rain. And you can dismantle Rain with careful planning. Escavalier is going to do some crazy work.
It's going to be great. I was thinking even in that Perish Song version of team, it's so incredibly bulky. If you slap an Assault Vest on this thing, it's really not going to die in the rain to anything.
To
anything. Or it can run Akka. It gets cool moves like, I believe it might get Feint even, but it definitely gets Encore, Drill Run and stuff.
Does Butterfree get Rage Powder?
Yeah.
Now, I think even though it looks like, what the heck did this guy do with a Butterfree pick? I mean, it's great sleep, which is awesome, but I think that redirecting things away from the Politoed is also good, just the grass moves in and of itself. You've got Lightning covered with 2 Lightning Rod users.
Yeah.
But I think, man, I see the Manectric being good, and I see even Seaking being good because he's got the special Swift Swimmer.
Yeah.
You know, Kingdra typically goes special. It can go physical just as well, I guess. But Seaking's attack is almost as high as Kingdra's, and its move pool is way freaking better. Like the Max Bug move is great.
Yeah, Max Bug is such a good thing to have, especially against the strong special Trick Room teams that we see.
Yeah, you can debuff special attackers, and this thing through Scale Shot gets Max Wormwind. So you can debuff physical attackers. It gets Bounce, so you get Max Airstream. It just has a crazy physical move pool. So I know that it looks like the Lightning Rod 2.0, but it's also kind of frightening as a Swift Swimmer.
You just have to be careful, because when you max something this frail, it can be heartbreaking if you don't get that kill. So I think it is a Pokemon you need to do your calculations with, but it's Seaking. It's great. Do you see anything on here that is maybe something you would consider wavering? I think Pinsir's obviously another strong bug option, but maybe we don't need 3 bugs on this team, even though they're all being covered.
Yeah, I don't see...
Because I'm seeing a rock weakness that's pretty potent.
Of the tier 4s, I would be looking at Pinsir as the weak link, even though like a Moxie set could be really fun. I was initially like, what's this Meowstick doing? But I think it's great.
Yeah,
the prankster things are going to be great.
It's great. And you talking about, the Perish Song thing, prankster, substitute for wasting turns paired with protect is just nuts.
Or even coming in mid-game, fake outing while the Politoed Perish Songs, then you sub, then you protect.
Yeah, this was my favorite pick for Mark to make, was the Meowstick male on this team.
But I think the Pinsir could maybe go for something that helps the rock problem instead of hindering
Adding
it.
to it, yeah.
Because Cloyster should stay on this team. I know he loves it, and he's got fake out Shell Smash if he wants to go that way. And Roselia will help with things like Gastrodon and Quagsire that could give this problems otherwise. So Pinsir, I don't know exactly what I would be thinking of because he's already got fake out.
Yeah, I would almost think of looking at Pharaoh Seed with Roselia to trade too. I need to see what Roselia does. I think it does get Weather Ball, which is very cool. It's just quite frail even with Eviolite. Especially if you're going to be investing in that special attack. Whereas I could see Pharaoh Seed with Leech Seed being more annoying than you think on this team. You know, but obviously having Poison as an option for offense is good.
Yeah.
I'm not in love with the Cloyster, but I know you could do really fun things even with just Meowstic, Thunder Wave, King's Rock, flinching with Cloyster.
Yep.
Like he's got a lot of tricks in this team. Butterfree maxing and statusing could be really annoying, so maybe looking for like a strong Hex user would be cool. Lampent still available.
Yeah, I think Ghastly is even stronger than Lampent, and
Ghastly
is fun. Destiny Bond is fun. Curse is actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
But this team is great. It I don't know how to explain. I just feel like it looks like it has exploitable weaknesses that are going to be patched up with like moves, whether they be fake out, whether they be rage powder. Even that Kingler can ally switch, which is weird but fun, especially next to a grass type partner or next to that Escavalier.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think that it's not the usual rain team you see. It's a little slower paced with some other fun options. But I think it could do some work. I just really think you got to be careful with the rock. Because not only is Max Rock going to change your weather, but it's really good against so many of your Pokemon. And that with Fake Out is going to be able to pick this team apart a little bit. Obviously, you have Escavalier to deal with that.
Yeah, I think that he's just going to have to keep in control of the weather, right?
Yeah.
The question is, do you lead Politoed Kingdra or do you lead Kingdra something else and switch Politoed in? That's always kind of the dilemma turn one for a rain team, and it'll have a lot to do with what max moves you think the opponent has, whether they have a weather starter. But I think this is primed to do really well. If you didn't have Perish Song on this, I would be worried that like in the late game it peters out. Like, you know, your Kingdra gets killed and then, you know,
your Escavalier gets burned.
Your Escavalier gets burned, and then you can't set up in the mid game as easily as you can with the right support. So I think that this could be a cool team to like grab momentum early and then have a win con, or I don't know, find a way to set up again. Something, though, like Kingler that's just slowing everything down every turn is going to be invaluable, I think. And I think that 100% sleep might be very important.
Yeah.
In the right moments.
So annoying just to see that Butterfree there. Know that it's going to probably have Sash or Scarf, and then just start either redirecting or putting you to sleep. And Escavalier, one of my favorite Pokemon in VGC, Mark, I just want you to make sure that you're always using Overcoat on it when you need to, because that ability prevents you from being rage powdered, prevents you from being sleep powdered, and it makes Escavalier just so good. Makes you resistant to hail even.
Yeah.
Just very cool.
Yeah. It's such a good Pokemon, and I love that it gets Drill Run because you can boost your special defense on top of your defense.
Yeah, and it has 105 both.
Yeah.
It's so bulky.
Yeah.
And it's 20 base speed, so as a Trick Room, like make sure to run it 0 speed too, because it is going to be your Trick Room counter. Many people will bring that against this.
Yeah, it's your Trick Room counter, along with Meowstic being able to reset it, I guess. Those are your two options. And Escavalier being that slow is the coolest thing in the world if ever you go Perish Song, because you will die last outside of Trick Room.
Yeah.
Pretty much guaranteed, unless you come up against that Trapinch.
Right. All right, and here we are back again with the last remaining 3 teams to review. This is the Tacoma Treeko, piloted by our chairman of the draft, Carter, rebranded and taking things a little bit differently this time. Last time he had Whimsicott, and this time he first picked Glastrier. That slow, Trick Room, just bulky threat. Paired with Glastrier is Heatran for Tier 1, Hitmontop, Raikou, and for Tier 2, Appleton, Aromatisse, and Malamar with Wishy-Washy for Tier 3, and Duskull, Fungus, and Morgrem making up the NFE Tier 4 squad on this roster. Let me just take a look here. This is a team that I think even Carter thought came out, started with a rocky start. Because after grabbing Glastrier, he went for Raikou, a Pokemon that I did not expect him to draft. I was sure he would go Glastrier in DD, just because that's such an annoying... if you can redirect from your Glastrier, it's nuts. Just because that thing picks up, boosts itself, it's impossible to kill, so if you're not able to double target it, it can pretty much do what it wants. But I know that Carter loves Raikou, and Raikou is very threatening, and it does give his team kind of a cool... not purely Trick Room mode here. On what we see is definitely a Trick Room team. Raikou's the only thing that would make you think otherwise. Maybe Heatran can run a fast mode, but he's got the bulk. He's got the strong attackers in Wishy-Washy, Heatran, Glastrier. He's got, in my opinion, one of the best Trick Room users, Aromatisse, and just an amazing support Pokemon. And Hitmontop, which Intimidate, Fake Out, Weakness Policy Activation for both of his heavy hitters up here in the Tier 1 category. He's got a lot of cool stuff. You have any thoughts?
Yeah. I think that the idea that this team was going in a negative direction was put out there purely by Carter. Maybe it was the Raikou pick for some people. I happen to think it's very strong. I use it when I can in VGC just because not being able to be faked out while supporting immediately through something like Snarl is going to help Glastrier a lot. I also think even if you're going to go hard Trick Room, it's bad to have just a slow team. Mm-hmm. It just puts you at a disadvantage, and this thing can do... can it do Electro Web?
No.
No? Okay. It can Thunder Wave, though. And it can Thunder Wave, it can Scald.
It can Bulldoze.
Yeah, it can Bulldoze.
It can Aura Sphere, just for strong.
And a quick Volt Switch, too, is not to be underestimated. I think the Malamar after that is what had everybody like, huh? But this thing is ready to do some really crazy combos. And I'm excited. He has he has 3 Trick Room users. So... if he chooses to go Trick Room, he will get Trick Room up at some point.
Yeah.
And Appleton's really interesting under Trick Room. I think Wishy-Washy is kind of like a Glastrier, but water type, just incredible bulk.
Yeah. With Heal Pulse option, I think Wishy-Washy is just deeply threatening. It pairs well with Aromatisse. It's a very cool Pokemon that, I think... some people would even entertaining it dropping into Tier 4, but I think it's going to prove itself as a ridiculous Tier 3 Pokemon here.
Yeah, and his Tier 4 toolbox is kind of providing all the stuff that we wish he had gotten early, right? He got Redirect.
Yeah.
Morgrem gives him everything support-wise. Duskull is actually maybe the Pokemon that I would see leaving, just because he already has an Aromatisse, I think.
Yeah, what he needs.
The best Trick Room user. I don't know when Duskull would come to battle instead of it or Malamar.
Yeah, I think it's great for the Levitate ally switch with Heatran.
Oh, that's true.
It also has, the immunity to fighting for Heatran and for Glastrier. So it is a very cool ally switch user with those 3 immunities. But yeah, for me, the only thing that I would switch is maybe Appleton for... I suggested to Carter the Exeggutor Alola just because that would have been another Trick Room user. for him. Also pairs well with Heatran. And I was also thinking for his team Tangela, just to have a redirect that you can kind of more... I know he has the Fungus. Tangela's really bulky, and I feel like can just do a little bit more all the time than Fungus. And I think that you're being stopped by the safety goggles either way. So why not take that risk with Sleep Powder? But that said, I think Appleton does a lot of cool things. I was eyeing this Pokemon myself for my team, and I just didn't pull the trigger. But it has incredible bulk. The Grass Dragon type is something that I didn't realize. It has those quad resistances to grass, to water, and to electric. And Appleton also gets Thick Fat, which helps him get a fire resistance and a just single ice weakness as opposed to quadruple. Yeah. You can do crazy things with Appleton. He's obviously very bulky. His max move is an attack paired with a status clear for his team, a mini aromatherapy, which is very cool for Glastrier that will be getting burn targeted all the time. It sucks that you have to max it, and I'm sure that Aromatisse might get aromatherapy as well to Cleric, but it is a cool option, and it can ripen, it has fun application. I think that Carter will have a lot of fun with that Pokemon, so I don't think that he went especially wrong with that pick. I also think Malamar is great. I didn't comment on that, but I wish I'd gotten Malamar. I don't think Morgrim gets Scary Face like Grimmsnarl does, but being able to target your own Malamar and boost its speed and then, superpower is very cool. But even without that, Malamar is just great in that it can't be hurt by, Intimidate helps it, Snarl helps it. All of those max moves will just boost its stats.
I'm not sure if he has Charm on this team, but that's something to look at.
That would be another cool thing.
Yeah. I think this team has Trick Room on lock. If there was a suggestion, it would be to try and find a partner for Raikou that gives you a fast mode turn 1, and then you obviously go to Trick Room mid game maybe and take momentum that way. But I'm trying to think of something that either has Clear Body.
Yeah, I was thinking Woodos. White Smoke Scorch.
Yeah.
But it's not that fast. Clear Body Regice, but he's already got the strong ice Pokemon.
Yeah. Clear Body or, a flying type.
Yeah. A
flying type that's good. In, just a good value. I could see something with some offensive power. I don't know. I feel this is just a really cool toolbox team, and Aromatisse feels really good in the back for both Heatran and Glastrier. And Appleton feels like a fantastic partner to Heatran and Wishy-Washy.
Yeah, I do think a flying type would be good, right? We want another ground resistance.
Yeah, I was thinking a flying type that you can bulldoze under and something that can... I don't know.
Maybe Vullaby.
Yeah, listen.
Maybe Vullaby.
Does he have... Oh, he does have a dark type. Yeah, I used Vullaby and I was pleased. Snarl foul play.
Yeah. The problem right now is just the Pokemon that are not there. What about Lunatone, Levitate? It's just so hard to find Pokemon that are good in the tiers right now because we've picked tier 4.
Listen,
clean.
I like Lunatone because it's 70 base speed, so it's middling. Can be helped by Bulldoze, and then that guy gets Meteor Beam.
Carter loves Meteor Beam.
Yeah. Power Herb that boy.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think these... Yeah, I think they're good. I'm always stressed when I see so much support that's going to need to run Sash, but I think that's my fault, and I shouldn't look at that because he's only going to be bringing, one of these per game for specific reasons, or 2, potentially.
Oh, man. You've got a fast volt switch, so if the item cell battery still exists, use it.
For Heatran? Or is it attack?
It's physical attack. Okay. So for Glastrier or
I
Appleton
think
or... who knows what you're going to do.
Yeah, a Hitmontop I think would be the
That would be pretty cool.
the user for that, with a surprise offensive Hitmontop if we were trying to make that work. But yeah, I think this is a very solid team. I think that it's just scary Trick Room, and obviously we have a lot of other like fun tools up here that are going to combat. I think Raikou, there's a lot of strong flying types and strong water types, and so having just this really fast threat to even stop them from stopping you from setting up Trick Room is great.
Yeah, the fast Snarl is good, and actually, listen, even next to Glastrier or Wishy-Washy, fast Leer is pretty scary.
Oh yeah, Leer.
Yeah.
It will miss though. It will miss. All right, let's go ahead and move on to, I think second to last, we have Wasatch Wingulls.
Speaking of scary electric types,
Yeah.
this team has a few.
This team's wild. Let's go over it. So we see the Whimsicott first pick, and Rotom Wash to go with that, which was his last pick. Hawlucha Xurkitree in Tier 2. Cursula Gallade is a repeat pick. Pincurchin and Torracat for Tier 3. Bronzor, Flareon, and Piloswine for Tier 4. Obviously, we're looking at just crazy offensive potential here. We've got the Whimsicott, some of the best speed control in the game, and paired with that, you have Xurkitree, Hawlucha, crazy offense. Cursula and Gallade have crazy offense. Maybe they don't benefit from that tailwind as much, but they're also just very offensive mons. You have your terrain. Great support here. Torracat, Whimsicott, that won last tournament. Flareon's got good offense. This team is going to look to break some bones.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a really good team, and I'm so stoked to see Xurkitree in action. Like, this is a Pokemon that by itself can snowball out of control. It gets Dazzling Gleam and Energy Ball, so it's hitting ground types. I don't know. I feel like this could be the center of his team each time, but he doesn't have to make it that way because he got a secondary Electric, which happens to be immune to ground, so that was fantastic. And I think that even though it looks like this team is focused entirely on special attack, Gallade subverts that because he can go beat up and suddenly he's just breaking through stuff with Justified.
Yeah, and Hawlucha, which is not especially strong, but picking up he has the Ice Shard for weakness, policy, and burden.
Yeah, he could do that.
And he could just have Electric Seed, and he can Swords Dance and just be bulky.
Yeah, with this Hawlucha, I would be thinking to use it mid-game because people are going to think he's going to lead with it, and he can rely on his terrain if he wants, but I love your idea for something like Ice Shard because suddenly in the mid-game it comes out of nowhere and cleans stuff up while getting boosts off of Knuckle and Airstream.
Yeah.
So that could be really frightening. I know that Cursola was like what he really wanted to get. We talked every round about whether other people were going to pick it or not, and I'm so glad he ended up with it. Not only because he has some really cool ideas, but because this is another Parish Mon. And I feel like this is another team that could take kills real fast and then default to that if it wanted to.
Yeah, I think Cursola is very cool, and maybe it won't be too good for Tier 3, but it's just one of those Pokemon that maybe we don't realize it yet, but it can be slow, fast, supportive.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous even when you start figuring out what it can do, you can't deal with it all. Gallade is, we talked about this with the Prankers, another Pokemon. It can just do so much, and I know that's why Nels loves it so much, even more than Gardevoir, because you can Trick Room, Imprison, Will-O-Wisp, Shadow Sneak. You can Justified. Very cool. I like Pincurchin. I was thinking about grabbing Pincurchin before he started rolling out the Extreme Electric Team, But I think this Pokemon's great even just as a lightning rod user. Like if you really need that in a matchup.
Yeah, and I didn't think of Pincurchin's Sucker Punch, but he can use that to weakness policy Cursola if he wants. I actually think all these Pokemon have a place. Bronzor and Piloswine are excellent tier 4s.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like Gallade is a good Trick Room Mon, but it can get donked pretty easily. More easily than Bronzor. Being able to ally switch that Levitate's going to be great for something like Xurkitree if he wants to go the slow mode. And then Piloswine just, I don't know. I feel like he got his electric immunity. He got... Ryan showed me a thing or two about what that thing can live through. If I was going to get rid of something, it would be Flareon for Wartortle.
I like that.
I don't dislike Flareon here. I think it's an awesome Pokemon, but you've already got Fire. Not as strong, but you've got Fire. In a more versatile Pokemon. And Wartortle would add even more versatility to this team. You'd get an extra Fake Out. I'm learning how good Haze is in this format every single day. And then I think that you could have such a cool, like, Aqua Jet utility on this team with Absorb Bulb, because you've got all these frightening special attackers.
Yeah, yeah, and being able to pull out that half weakness policy can really matter. I think running with the just crazy offense, I think that he should drop Flareon for Type Null, just for the sake of, first off, having a ghost immunity, because this team is kind of afraid of ghosts.
Yeah.
I think it has 3 weaknesses, no immunity, no resistances to Ghost, which isn't, a huge deal, but having Type Null, it's very bulky, and it can imprison, protect. And on this team, where you're just going to be loading up your Gallade, Cursola, Xurkitree, Hawlucha, Nasty Plot Rotom, whatever, maybe you want a Pokemon that can just stop your opponent from protecting.
Yeah.
And, waiting out your Tailwind.
I think those are both good suggestions for this. It's a good team already.
Yeah. Bronzor is another. I think it's bulky, and we didn't really get to see it shine last season, so I'd be hesitant to say get rid of Bronzor, because I think that having anti-Trick Room is important for this team. But you kind of already have it in Gallade.
Kinda. If he was going to get rid of Bronzor, I would want another Trick Room Pokemon like Carbink, which has the built-in Sash, or like Natu, which has the built-in anti-taunt.
Yeah, let's stick with Bronzor. I'll stick with Bronzor when I think about those. But yeah, I'm excited to see this. I think I've had stars in my eyes about this team just because of the sheer offensive threat, and I do think that Xurkitree is really good.
Yeah, I wonder. So Xurkitree, it's cool because Xurkitree is going to be able to boost its defense with an Electric Seed if it wants to, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I think that's not to be underestimated too.
No.
Because that's what the Rillaboom combo with Xurkitree is all about. Like living those ground quakes that you normally wouldn't.
Yeah, and that's not going to be the case here, but he does instead have 2 great flying levitate partners for Xurkitree. Xurkitree gets a Volt Switch, right? I think that it's going to be the most threatening is just a
Hit and run.
Scarf
Yeah.
Pokemon that has the stats of a Specs Pokemon, or a Life Orb Pokemon, just because of that. The Beast Boost is obviously very enticing, and maybe that's where it should go.
I want to know who on this team gets Rising Voltage, just because that move, once Dynamax is over, still takes kills it shouldn't.
Yeah.
Like, you're throwing a 140 power move out in terrain, you're still going to take kills with a regular Mon. So, even if it's a Pincurchin.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that only Pincurchin and Xurkitree benefit from it. Rotom Wash gets it, but sadly is not grounded. But yeah, that Xurkitree Rising Voltage is just nuts. I remember seeing a calc on Raichu Alola Rising Voltage against Blissey, and I think it 2-shot
Wow.
Blissey. It's just so incredibly strong. And so people that do not have the ability to deal with that, beware. That's another thing I was thinking about. Maybe Impidimp. Maybe a little switcheroo ring target.
Oh, yeah.
Not only for Halucha, or for Zergatry, but also for Halucha, hitting ghost types.
That could be fantastic.
Rotom can switch, I guess. Yeah. So that could be... There was a Rotom ring target switch anyway, before.
I like Rotom on this team as his last pick. I know that Nellis kind of had options to go from different tiers up until the end when he locked this in, but if he didn't have Zergatry, he would probably be pressured to make this his offensive Pokemon, but it has so many defensive qualities like Wisp, Screens, Trick, Ally Switch, Defog. So the thing can do some fun stuff and is bulky enough to live.
Yeah. So I think we should get to a point where we're cutting this because we've talked a lot about this team. But yeah, I think it's very threatening. I think the only thing it's going to deal with are opposing fast teams. That, when I'm looking at his speed tiers, they're fast, and Halucha is ridiculously fast. But if we're looking at versus Swift Swim, Other Tailwind, Sand, it could get kind of scary, right?
It could get scary, and he might, in those matchups, be thinking about how this team's also a Trick Room team.
Yeah. And I'm sure he's going to have great fun with that. Let's move on to the last team.
Best for last,
the newly rebranded West Seattle Whiscash, moving in this weekend.
Yeah, back home at last.
Back home to Washington. We've got Kartana and Tapu Fini for Tier 1, Drifblim, Entei, Thundurus, Therian for Tier 2, Musharna, Berserker for Tier 3, Mr. Mime, Octillery, Whiscash, and Zweilous for Tier 4. This team is very strong. Probably in my top 3 I'm scared to play this teams. Partly because I know how good Tapu Fini is, and then I see it paired with so many other scary Pokemon.
Yeah, perfect partner for Kartana.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, those two side by side were meant to dance. I feel like Kartana doesn't have to fear the burn.
Or the paralysis.
Yeah, you're
which
right.
Could be a huge pain. Obviously,
he's got Haze too, right there.
Yeah,
Fini.
Yeah. Tapu Fini Haze is so good, Tyler. Please use it. It's so good. Obviously, Tapu Fini is an amazing offensive and supportive threat because I think it gets Heal Pulse. I'm pretty sure, or it did. It gets Calm Mind. It gets Haze. It gets Icy Wind. You can take that Calm Mind route and just go more offensive. You can swagger this thing with your Thundurus and start running physical sets on it. We saw teams online doing that recently, and that's threatening. So this is one of those Pokemon that can do, multiple roles well. Drifblim is great. We see he has amazing quick Trick Room with the Unburden and the Misty Seed. Entei thrown out. There is a little bit of awkwardness here, right? That Drifblim can't Will-O-Wisp and Entei can't Sacred Fire with Misty Terrain, but Tyler just has to be cognizant of that. Berserker is secretly a favorite fake-out user of mine, or not so secretly, but this with Kartana just blowing out Steel Spikes with a 1.5 power boost, ridiculous.
Yeah, he's got a good fast mode.
Yeah, it makes your max Steel Spike do 220. It's like 220 base power. It's just nuts.
Berserker was a great pick too, even for it's not just steel types, it's steel type moves, right?
Yeah.
So he can throw out a flash cannon, or his Entei can Iron Head, and it suddenly got Stab.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's great. I mean, it sucks that, it's kind of one note in its typing and its support move pool, but it does get Metal Burst, which could net something cheeky later on. I think Mr. Mime's a great Tier 4 pick.
It's a good pick, yeah. Helping Hand by itself on a team like this will be really important.
Fake Out, Trick Room option. Whiscash is maybe the weakest member. I know that he's excited. Octillery is a great Trick Room mode here with Musharna. and potentially a slow Entei. You could get it a little bit slower. I see Octillery going threatening. Zweilous is a very threatening Trick Room sweeper because Hustle is just so strong on this thing. We know that Tyler likes to roll the dice, and this thing is, I think, the second strongest dragon type in terms of physical offense.
I don't think Tyler has to roll the dice because this could very well be his Dynamax.
Yeah, definitely could
and
max.
it'll be good.
Yeah, I don't think he needs to do it. I don't know.
I like seeing Bulldoze alongside two really good flying types. The raw power that Thundurus has is awesome.
Yeah, and it still gets all those support moves.
I'm trying to see if there's anything exciting that can happen with Musharna and its telepathy. If Thundurus can discharge, for example.
Yeah, and Tapu Fini also gets telepathy.
Yeah, because
So-
there's kind of a, this could go spread mode if possible.
We have an Earthquake user,
Yeah.
Whiscash.
Musharna is really good. I mean, obviously, people think of Trick Room, but just sitting there, not dying, and using Helping Hand or healing your partner is great. And sometimes I feel like I'm so worried about Trick Room when really I just need a fast Mon next to a slow Mon that complement each other well.
Yeah. Yeah, being slow enough to underspeed the Trick Room threats that your opponent has can just be helpful in that, that you will have that edge up.
But he has great speed control in a really fast Drift Blim Icy Winding,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, man, it's scary. Does he have Sucker Punch? I think Mr. Mime gets Sucker Punch
Yeah.
to activate Weakness Policy
Nice
Drift Blim.
Weak one.
Just want to have that option.
Yeah, this team has Fake Out next to Trick Room, so it's guaranteed to get it out.
It's
But,
got pretty much everything,
yeah,
right?
and I don't see any screaming weaknesses. I want to know what the plan for Whiscash is.
Yeah, I think, maybe he just had everything that he wanted, and Whiscash can fissure. And that said, as a Tyler trump card, could be scary enough.
What are its abilities?
Oblivious and, hydration. Okay, a little bit of rain. Anticipation could... Does he have any other... it could help... But, yeah, it's not great.
Sorry, Whiscash.
Sorry, Whiscash.
If you can still
quite
Dragon Dance,
underwhelming.
though, that might be the solution.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know, Tyler could think about wavering it if he wanted to. I think Type Null would be fine for this team, too.
Yeah, if Kartana's just picking and choosing when to erase someone.
Exactly. Exactly. And he has, could use a little bit of Ghost immunity to switch in, maybe.
Yeah, this is great because the fast Steel Spike is, the fast defensive boost makes it so with your support Mon like Thundurus, you run Light Screen, and then you just kind of have a complete package.
Yeah, or Eerie Impulse.
Or Eerie Impulse.
With Thundurus, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I just wish Kartana was a little bit thicker. I don't like these Achilles heel Pokemon that much, like Stonejourner, Cryogonal. I mean, I love them, but I find in VGC it's so hard to use them compared to singles.
Yeah, I felt that way about Tangrowth, and granted it has way more HP, but I'm surprised at a positive nature, max special defense investment, and with Kartana, a lot of times people don't even run max attack.
Yeah.
It's so strong that you just need to two-shot or one-shot the right things. So an Assault Vest kind of patches things up for it, and it's definitely, I don't know, it's the big threat that I think any team facing this team has to consider, especially since Thundurus is there to back it up on the special side with blistering speed too.
Yeah. Damn, I don't want to fight this team.
Tyler's cheeky too, so he's not going to be afraid to pull out the weirdest things the team can do.
Of course not. Special attacking Weavile.
Yeah. And this team looks like it has some fun, weird stuff. I'm excited to see Octillery
Yeah.
played. Moody could be scary. I mean, Sniper is obviously attempting consistent.
Yeah, baby. Focus, energy, Sniper. With the Trick Room set up. And then just start surfing with Telepathy, Musharna.
Yeah.
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
And healing it for water spouts. But yeah, I think great work, Tyler. Glad to see you, pulling out something different than last. So many people have changed their teams a lot, and I'm really excited to just see these matches play out. I just want to see the matches. And yeah, Tapu Fini, I will say I was going to pick this up instead of Thundurus. I was right before Tyler, and I kind of had a chat with him, like, which one would you prefer? Which one? And I think we ended up with the Pokemon that will better suit us for this season. But I can't help to look at it and miss that Tapu Fini after using it so much on ladder. It's a great Pokemon, and I'm very excited to see it do well. But I think that covers all of the teams.
Great draft, everyone.
Yeah, great draft, and I know this is coming out a little bit late. Hopefully I can get it out later tonight on the Tuesday, if not on Wednesday of this week. But hopefully we'll be getting some matches, and we can be back with you guys talking over what happened in this first week in just a short amount of time. And thanks everybody for listening and hearing out our thoughts. Everybody did an amazing job of drafting, and I'm really excited to get this season started.